You could have a very sketchy van that says "Don't go in" written on marker on the side of the van, and yet you'll pull it out and scream to a bunch of marketers, "Hey, we've got templates." They're all gonna climb in. They're gonna see the blood splatter on your clothes. They're gonna see the knives. They're still gonna go in if you say you have templates. Like, we can't resist it. We can't help it.
This is Slice and Dice, a show for B2B marketers who are looking to get inspiration from the best content available. But what is the best content? What are marketing and sales professionals really reading, watching, and listening to? In each episode of Slice and Dice, Brett McGrath highlights live data captured from the Juices platform and introduces what people are really interested in. Brett partners with an industry expert to figure out why certain content hits the mark and what we can all learn from it. Okay, let's chop it up.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Slice and Dice episode 4. I am your host, Brett McGrath, Vice President of Marketing at the Juice. Today, we are going to explore the top 5 highest performing content pieces for marketing professionals in the month of March on the Juice. Today's guest, Mariya Delano, founder and operator at Kalyna Marketing. Mariya, hey, you're not Jonathan. We've got an outside guest. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hi, Brett. Thank you for having me. Very excited to dive in.
I enjoy reading your posts on LinkedIn regularly. I know you're a fan of content and you work with a lot of marketers around content. So we're going to be diving into content pieces and really looking forward to hearing your perspective.
And I'm going to try to be less of a picky a-hole than I usually like to be because I want to be fair to people. So we'll see. We'll see. If I get too mean, let me know.
Yeah, hey, it's all, we want to be real. We want to be authentic. Everything is fair game. So share your hot takes if you got them.
I got plenty.
It's been a while since we've had someone on the outside coming in. So last episode of Slice and Dice, we talked about sales content, and I'm a marketer. So that was a fun episode. Everyone's kind of in sales in a small business, and learning from the content certainly helps. But kind of going back to the roots here, going back into content, what's resonating with other marketers. So we're going to be diving into the top 5 highest performing pieces of content for marketers on the Juice in 2023. And I want to spend some time on the trends that we're observing with the data. But one thing stuck out to me as I was looking through the pieces. I wasn't hit over the head with content regarding generative AI. I think while I turn to my social feed, there is a ton of conversation around generative AI and its impact on content and marketing. And there were some mentions here and there, but I know you have a lot of passion. I've seen you talk about generative AI on LinkedIn and other platforms. Why don't you think it's hitting us over the face on this list? It can't be for a lack of content. What do you think?
I honestly think that there are 2 things going on here. Number one is we have a very interesting selection of pieces of content this time around. Every single thing is so practical. I was kind of shocked, to be honest, that all 5 of them fell into this kind of format. Because, usually very educational, practical stuff does perform well, but it's surprising that all of it falls into that bucket. I wouldn't call anything here thought leadership or particularly trend setting. So I think that's part of it. Most of these are more evergreen topics, and AI is a fad right now, right? It's news jacking, it's trend jacking, it's trying to jump on the hot topic. And I don't think that's how any of these pieces were made. And then the second thing that I think is going on here is, I don't know about you, but the people on my feed who are posting about AI and commenting about it are mostly sick of it. I'm still seeing posts about AI, every 3rd post on my LinkedIn feed. But most of them are talking about how sick they of AI and posts about AI. So I feel like we've moved into the Metaphase where we're not talking about AI. We're talking about hating on AI or not hating on AI. And I haven't seen many AI-only posts anymore. I don't know if that's going to change.
It'll probably come back around when it gets quiet. It's how it all goes. But I think that's a good observation, and a note I took regarding the pieces, and we're going to get into them, is just how they're all practical. So you and I both saw the same thing. But before we get into the content, I want to talk a little bit about the data. understand not everyone has seen every episode of Slice and Dice. So for anyone who is unfamiliar or hasn't seen the show, we pull the data for the episodes directly from the Juice. If you're unfamiliar, the Juice is a content curation platform for B2B marketing and sales professionals and a distribution channel for brands who want to reach them. And just real quick, setting the stage on the data so you all understand where it's coming from. Platform engagement data. Now, what that means, it's tracking the engagement actions by the members on the Juice engaging with content across the platform. It's also calculated. Things that are calculated into this are bookmarking, favoriting, and sharing by members of the Juice. And for today's episode, the data is all filtered by marketing as the primary job function. So top 5 pieces for March, kind of fun. March isn't quite over as we record this, but to me, this is just really relevant. And one observation I noticed, you mentioned the practicality. One that I noticed was just headlines for the articles and how we spend all this time thinking about being creative, catching everyone's attention, but very action-oriented and very practical, as I'll use the same word as you. And I know you, based on the work that you do and creating content and working with a lot of content marketers or that are working with your agency, you probably talk about headlines. Like, maybe talk a little bit about that. What's your process? How do you think about it? How do you coach up your clients on them?
So I'm honestly pretty bad with headlines in
Love
certain
it.
ways. I am bad with making headlines that are applicable to SEO and to larger sort of audiences. So even for the Juice, I honestly think I need to rewrite a lot of my headlines because they're not working on there. And the reason why is the way we develop them. It comes from my background as a creative writer and as a bit of an academic, because I used to consider going into a PhD in literary studies. So my brain is still very academic writing trained. And I think of titles the way I think of a good essay title or a good academic paper title, which means it needs to kind of tell you what it's about and whether you're the relevant audience. But mostly it needs to be a little salacious and a little scandalous. And it needs you to stop and think, wait, what? What are they talking about? And I have a bit of personality. So I like titles that have personality in them, right? If you look at my Substack, that's the big example of me going wild. Why Marketers Are Afraid of Kindness is one of my titles. Or on the peculiar artifice of conferences, right? It's short with weird descriptors, and you're like, wait, what is this? I know the big topic, it's about conferences, but what is she saying? And you'll have no idea. Which works really well when you have a targeted audience, and it works really well when you're just trying to stop the scroll, but it does not work well when people are looking for something specific and practical. So honestly, I could learn a bit from these simpler titles for certain content, because I think I might have served my clients dirty here and there, I'm going to admit. Usually we try to do a balance. Like one of the articles we did for a client recently that should be getting published soon is called How to Convince Your Boss to Actually Pay for Data Analytics Software. And unless they change the title, that's how it's going to go up. And the whole point of that is still practical, how to do this. But there's a bit of salacious tone to it, right? How to actually convince them, how to get them to actually pay because they're not paying.
I love the vulnerability, and I'm the same way. I kind of lean towards salacious, attention grabbing, but I think what this is telling me is that the era that we're in marketing, like marketers are just trying to figure out how to absorb content that helps them do something better. And that's how I'm reading it. I think they're not saying that salacious and attention-grabbing headlines don't work, but I just found it interesting that as we run through this list, and that's what I'm about to do, you'll see it's none of these headers on these posts are hit you over the head or make you chuckle, or that's just pretty matter-of-fact.
And that's fine, and there's a time and place for it, which is why I do admit I honestly should lean more towards this side here and there, and I am biased. And I think a lot of us end up leaning towards a style that we go with in our process and our headings in writing the content itself. And we can get so in over the head of like, this is the way to do it. But that's not true. And that doesn't mean that's all we should do or that it's appropriate in every situation. I kind of like that I disagree with most of these.
I'm with you. Let's get into the top 5 pieces. So I'm going to run them down countdown style. We'll start at 5. Number 5, Google Ads alternative from Brave. Digging into this one, it pretty much impacts everyone, so I can see the relevance and why it ended up on this list. The ultimate HubSpot workflow overview from HubSpot Hacks. No one's making better content than the HubSpot Hacks team right now. If you're a HubSpot user and you stumbled across a headline, I'm sure you're clicking in to see how you could level up with your HubSpot instance. Number 3, build loyalty through customer engagement strategies from Jebbit. We're all trying to leverage our customers, maximize those relationships, and obviously drive more revenue. And so that is an article that stood out to me and grabbed my attention as I was going through this list. Number 2, from Hotjar, 5 best examples of user personas. I think anything Hotjar puts out, people are probably interested in. They create really good content, and it's not a surprise to see them on this list. And number 1, 16 content brief templates from our friends at MarketMuse. So super practical. Templates always win. I just feel like it's a continual thing. If you put templates in the headline or if you're offering templates, people are going to click in because it's likely that you're going to help save them time. 5 really diverse pieces, Mariya, but maybe looking through this, and I know you spent a lot of time digging through, reading the articles. Was there anything about kind of these articles and the data that surprised you as you were digging in?
Yeah, there are a couple of things that I would say were common for all of these that were kind of surprising. Number 1 is I recognized every single one of these brands. I know about Brave. I know they're a browser. I've seen HubSpot Hacks around, even though I don't watch the videos. I know they make guide videos. I knew about Jebbit. I knew about Hotjar. I knew about MarketMuse. I think I've been on definitely 3 out of the 5 of these websites before and read their blog here and there. So that was really surprising to me that I knew every single one. And none of them are the SEM Rush of the world or anything that we know they dominate search. So it's pretty interesting. We have kind of a, B-list celebrities of the content world here.
I love it.
And the other thing that surprised me is I would call all 5 of these, I'd usually refer to this as standard SEO articles, which is, it's a lot of the best practices of, it's not very personal. It could be written by anybody on that team, really, from that company. It's all very how-to oriented, very practical, but also the standard format that you have of this is what this is why it would benefit you, here's an example, here may be some options, and at the end, here's how you can use our product instead, fit it into the list. And it was interesting looking at all of these and seeing how similar they are, except obviously the exception of HubSpot Hacks, because that's a guide. I would say that's the only one that's a really different format. But all the other 4, I would say, are in the same bucket of the same kind of top of funnel, middle of funnel content that's SEO optimized. And it was funny looking at them side by side and clicking back and forth and noticing the differences.
I love it. I wouldn't, maybe what you jumped off and talked about, I'd love to ask you a follow-up on it. But you made mention, although, might not be the primary top tier, like go sponsor diamond level or platinum level sponsorship at SaaStr and everybody knows the brands. Like you said personally, like I know all of these brands. And I know it probably varies, but is there anything outside of like these content pieces specifically? Obviously, they're making good content, but is there a common theme that may be woven throughout all of these brands? Is it like they post on LinkedIn? They're active with creating their content. It's getting distributed to you the right way. Is there any commonality that you can probably dumb it down to all of these to say, this is why I know these brands and why they've been in my hemisphere before?
There's a commonality for 3 of them. So the top 3, Jebbit, Hotjar, and MarketMuse. I know about all of these the same way. It was a combination of seeing something about them on LinkedIn, either posts by their team or somebody mentioning them, or I've heard about them on Slack in marketing communities. And I actually think for all 3 of them, I've seen them in both places, both on LinkedIn and in Slack when people talk about tools and discuss certain companies. And I know that I've seen the names of all 3 of them multiple times across the last 5-6 months.
What I love about that response is so much of what we do in marketing isn't like we go post in a Slack community, we post in a LinkedIn and expect like a new contract or opportunity, but it like compounds over time. And then eventually we get to this point where two random people are talking about your brand on a video podcast about content.
Exactly. And either of us may be the target audience. I don't know if we fully are. I'm not sure if I would actually buy any of these products, but also somebody listening to us might be. And that is
Totally.
something that's going to be very hard for their marketing team to attribute, because you're not going to get a click through from, oh, Mariya saw somebody recommend MarketMuse in the Superpath Slack group. And then
Yeah.
5 months later, she talked about it to Brett on a podcast.
Right.
And then somebody named Ellen or something listened to it and came through and became a customer. You're never going to find that out. It's not going to happen. But it's still useful. It's still a matter of measuring success, I would say, getting a brand mention like this.
Totally. And Ellen, if you do go request a demo and you do end up signing a contract with any of these brands, please mention our name so we can get the referral bonus.
Even if your name is not Ellen, please just mention us.
Let's talk about maybe any of these content pieces specifically. I'm curious, like, in drilling into any of them, and you can pick and talk about whatever you want, but like, does anything stand out to you where you've like read the article, dissected everything and been like, this is why I think it made the list? Like the headline, it's the design, the thumbnail, the content itself, like anything you want to talk about there specifically about any of these pieces.
So, as I mentioned to Brett before we started recording, my husband and I were talking about these pieces at like 2 a.m. last night. We were supposed to go to bed at 1, so I'd wake up early, but we ended up talking until about 2:30 a.m., and we were mostly talking about one of these. So I think we should talk about that one.
Let's go.
And it's number 1, the most
Boom.
popular, 16 content brief templates by MarketMuse. I have a lot of thoughts about this one.
Let's go.
So, starting out, because this was through the juice, I was looking at the pages in isolation, the way it appears with the thumbnail, the title, the description on the platform, and thinking, why would somebody favorite it, bookmark it, or click on it without looking? And I would say I want to give them so much credit for how freaking cute the illustration is. And I was looking through what their other illustrations look like, and they're great. Whoever's doing these little robot illustrations, I love you. Please make a comic or an animation because they're so cute. I would buy a plushie, honestly. So that caught my attention because it's not a stock photo, and some of the other pieces here did have stock photos, and that's the typical. Or it's not what I do, which is go to Canva and put together like 3 different stickers and hope it looks like it works together, and like I had a graphic designer, or just text. This is an actual proper, unique illustration with good colors, a humanoid robot, which kind of looks cute and appealing. And I love it. I saw it immediately. And then their title is super practical. It's content brief templates. I feel like templates are marketer candy. You could have a very sketchy van that says, don't go in, written on marker on the side of the van. And yet you'll pull it out and scream to a bunch of marketers, hey, we've got templates. They're all going to climb in. They're going to see the blood splatter on your clothes. They're going to see the knives. They're still going to go in if you say you have templates. Like, we can't resist it. We can't help it. So I feel like this was bound to get clicks. And 16 is a big number, so I get intrigued. I think, it's not too lazy. They spent more than 10 minutes putting these together. This should be good.
I love it. The robots, maybe a content idea. There's the MarketMuse team has the resources. How about a comic book? That could be a good brand play. I love it.
I recently found out that, what's their name? Postmark. One of their marketing people is Fio's the one that writes Content Folks, the
I love
Substack
content
newsletter.
folks. Shout out Fio.
So Fio's company, Fio also works on these comics for Postmark, and I saw them recently, and they're amazing. I have not seen comics being used as a marketing channel in B2B before, in B2B software. And it's awesome, and I really recommend people check it out. So MarketMuse, maybe here's some inspiration. You could make your own little comics.
Your analysis be different from someone else's analysis, but the fact of the matter is people are going because, like you said, we've got templates, and there could be a sketchy van said, don't come in here. But the fact that you've got templates, people are coming in, right?
And the better part is they actually deliver. The van might look sketchy, and I might be accepting my candy from somebody who is wearing a very dirty looking apron, and it's kind of confusing, but they're giving me the candy and I can still leave. So you know what? In my book, that's a successful deal. Because the article actually has the templates. There's 16 templates. They're all relevant. I can see what they are. And actually, they kind of stole the Juice's job, because if you click on the enlarge image under each template, you get to the Google Docs. You can skip their sign-up forms and their landing pages. So I think they stole something out of your playbook.
I love it. Hey, that is the greatest imitation is the greatest compliment. That's how we say it. And everybody steals in marketing. So I love the perspective. I love all the call outs. Maybe just zooming out and digging into just zooming out, but just thinking about all the content pieces on this list. We've said a bunch of things. We've said practical. We've said simple headlines. Is there any, what's your primary takeaway from this list? I'd love for you to understand maybe connecting the dots between what content works, and then at the end of this, what makes the most sense from your end.
Yeah. So zooming out and thinking about all of these pieces together, something that came to mind is the data we have tells us at how successful all of this content was at getting views and attracting attention for these specific pieces of content, right? The 5 best examples of user personas is successful at getting people to click at the 5 best examples of user personas. What we don't know, at what I've been thinking about, is how successful was it at getting people further into that funnel? How many people read through, maybe read all the way through? How many people clicked somewhere else? How many people will be convinced to trust these brands and maybe go explore their website and go sign up for a demo? Because what I see pretty often is there's this conflation of success between how many people did you get to look at the thing and is it actually going to work for the rest of your goals? Because those are not always the same. And I was thinking about this because it was 2 a.m. In terms of a literal funnel. So right, imagine a physical funnel going into a bottle, and you're throwing stuff into it, and you're trying to get it to land in the bottle. And you're about 2 feet away, so you can't cheat and just, put things right in. I feel like a lot of these articles and the really top of funnel, practical but large appeal articles are kind of like a melon. You're throwing the melon into the funnel. It's big, so you're probably going to hit the funnel. It's going to land on the top, but it's going to get stuck because it's a melon. You're not going to push it through. So it's very good at landing there and getting a lot of people, but they're not necessarily actually going to go through. And then you can have things like a landing page that's extremely specific for a use case for people who are ready to buy, or a blog post that's about your particular feature, and that's your classic bottom of the funnel thing. So it's kind of like throwing a grain of rice in. Once it's in the funnel, it's going to go down just fine. It's tiny. But how well are you going to be able to actually, aim and land? And I personally don't tell my clients to create content that's either rice grains or melons. We go for blueberries. It's just big enough that it's going to fit through the bottom of the funnel, but it's small, right? It's just small so that it will still fit through and slide through, but it's big enough that you can still aim it. So it's just the right size. It's as big as possible, but still very targeted. And that's what I was thinking about, because I don't know. I would love to see how many of these were blueberry articles. I might be wrong, but I don't think most of them are.
I forever am going to be thinking about content optimization and blueberries together, one and the same. I appreciate the analogy. And Mariya, I appreciate you being on and a guest and sharing all your perspective. The van analogy too, I'm going to steal that from you because that's what we do. We steal stuff from other marketers. So appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing your perspective. Also want to shout out Motion, our good friends at Motion, for helping us produce this show. Mariya, this was fun. We're going to have to do it again.
We should. And if you see me posting an article with templates, don't read the text. It might be all lorem ipsum.
But first person who sees an article from Mariya and sees that, tag the Juice. We'll do something fun.
Yeah. We should do like a secret discount code.
We'll make it happen. Mariya, thanks so much for your time. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Slice and Dice. The data referenced in the show is powered by The Juice. Start searching the world's largest library of sales and marketing resources by signing up for free at thejuicehq.com. And this show is produced by Motion, a done-for-you podcast agency for small, scrappy B2B tech marketers. To learn how you can launch and grow a podcast for your company, visit motionagency.io.